When we're selecting what machine is going to be best for us to be able to train our back, the first thing we have to get our heads around is what grip do we want to be hitting to help us hit different parts of our back. So if we're looking to try and get as much as we can out of our lats, we want to be choosing grips that help to bias a little bit more of a neutral, even a slightly supinated or palms up grip, because that will help us tuck our elbows in closer to our sides, help us track along more this lat line of pull, where we're going to end up with our upper arm roughly next to our torso. If we wanted to get something that was a little bit more for the mid-back, we're going to be choosing something that allows us to get into a great degree of protraction or hunching the body forward to really stretch out those mid-back fibers. If we're trying to get more through the rear delts, you want to be choosing a grip setup that allows for maximal excursion of the upper arm or the elbow traveling behind the torso as possible. So that's the first thing. The second thing you want to start paying attention to is how the resistance or the weight that's loaded on the machine, how that changes through the range of motion. Because different machines provide different resistance profiles. So if you look at something like a typical hammer strength row, generally speaking, if you stay seated in the machine, when you pull in, the weight gets further and further away from the pivot point, especially in the peak contraction. What this does is it increases the resistance placed upon your body in that peak contraction, which may or may not be what you're looking for with your training at the moment. Whereas if you look at something like a T-bar row, by contrast, as you pull up and reach that peak contraction, the weight draws in closer to the pivoting point, which helps decrease the resistance in that end range position of flexion, which may be a more even match in terms of the resistance profile to what your back muscles are capable of doing as they go through the range of motion. So finally, there isn't really a right or wrong here. It really just does depend on what body part are you trying to hit more. Is it rear delt, is it lat, or is it mid-back? And what kind of resistance profile do you want to be creating with the exercise? Do you want something that's overloading the shortened position where you're reaching that peak contraction? Or do you want something that's quite even throughout the entire range of motion?